Good afternoon. No, I'm not dead yet. There has been many who have
Oh,
tried, and very few have failed. Wait, that didn't sound right. And we'll go with it anyways. Today we're reviewing the 1960 Time Machine movie brought to us by the gentleman to my right, Mark. This was your choice, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think of this movie?
Well, me, if you're asking me, I picked it because just it was a classic to me, and I just remember first time seeing this as a little kid, and just caught my imagination. There, we didn't really have a lot to choose from when I was a youngster, so we had this program called Family Classics with Fraser Thomas, who was like a local Chicago WGN type guy. He was the host on the Bozo Show and everything else for years, but
Bozo.
he would do these older movies like like Moby Dick and Journey. This once in a while you get something real good like this, but like the old Robin Hood movies and stuff like that. It was called Family Classics, and then yeah. So when something like this would pop up on it, it was a good Sunday afternoon when I was a kid.
Fair
So it
enough.
has that nostalgia feel for me, and I just always liked the movie, and I've read the well, it's a short. I get not really a novel. I guess it's more of a novella. I think the story may be 80 pages or whatever, but
mm,
the novella itself is quite like everything else. It's quite a bit different than the actual book with a lot of with all these movies that are adaptations of books. They're quite a bit different. So I would say the
I think the
I
20th
would say
version is closer.
yeah, it might be. I think it might be. But yeah. So yeah, that's but yeah, I like it. It's favorite like one of the faves of mine for sci-fi, classic sci-fi, I guess.
It's definitely one of H.G. Wells' classics right there. It
Hmm.
was Center of the Earth and what the few other ones he's done. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I liked it when he first invented it, and he was going through each time. As he's going through the decades, he stops, and just how the clothing on the mannequins would just change with
Hmm.
every. Well, that was interesting. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Um, yeah, I like the structure of the story. I've seen several different versions of it, and read the novella, like Mark said. But I think this is one of the ones that are the more fun. Like a lot of the other ones are very dreary. Are are like the 2000s one was kind of like, why did you change that? You know,
Yeah, his soon-to-be wife, or whoever his love interest has died. He kept going back in time, trying to fix it. And every time he does,
they cut that out of this version, but it's in all the other ones.
yeah.
That's what makes it more dreary to me. But the thing that they changed in the 2001 was the war. Instead of a war, it was an old age home on the moon. Why
Well, this movie had a sequel that came out in 1991.
did it? Like
Yeah.
the 60s version?
Hmm.
I
Okay,
didn't know that.
I've probably seen it, but I don't know that.
That time machine back, the journey back.
Mm.
93, my bad. I don't
Same
know.
cast.
For the most part, yeah. Michael J. Fox was even in it.
Michael J. Fox was in it.
Yeah, yeah. But no, going back to the original one. Um, the Utopia, how they just the set designs were absolutely gorgeous back then at that time. Uh,
Little simplistic, but yeah, gorgeous.
I thought, what was I thinking? I don't know. When they went back to where the underground people, what were they
The
called?
Morlocks.
The
The
Morlock.
Morlock.
Morlocks.
I wonder if there was a. I'm trying to find the right way to say it. A poke at society with that. You had the rich, glamorous people on top and the poor people on bottom.
Oh yeah, that was the whole gist. It was a it was a commentary at the time the novella was written. You know, about the different stratification of the social classes and stuff like that. That was the whole. That was a
Yeah.
big underlying tone or theme throughout that novel. Yes, you'd hit that nail on the head. Yes, that was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the cannibalism was a metaphor for revolution or something like that. I can't remember. But yes,
Sounds appropriate. Yeah.
like
The
eat the
original
rich.
eat, yeah, the original Eat the Rich.
But the 1960 version, well, it was, yeah, this movie came out in 1960. It was a big plot point or what narrative or commentary on the Cold War at the time. Obviously, I mean, it kind of hits you over the head with all the warnings and things that are going on with it. I think, and
But
that's
that
a
was in
major.
the original story, like the constant war and the
Yeah,
senselessness of it.
it was, yeah.
But like at the beginning, the war that they're talking about is the Boer War. That was the war that was going on when the story was written, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. Correct.
Which was a senseless war over just greed.
Mm. I was looking at the cast. I'm trying to. I honestly, when it comes to the cast of this movie was made in the '60s, and I've seen some older films. I've definitely seen my share of older films, but there's not really anybody here I recognize from anything else.
I don't know, but I want to recognize Yvette, whatever the fuck her last name was. Oh, the blonde
Uh,
chick.
yeah, Mimie Mini. I don't know UX.
Oh, what was her name? I'll pull the video up and listen to it.
So, was there any? I'm trying to find the right question. I'm also tired, so sorry, guys. Um, was there any part of the time and when he was going through the decades? What and what was there any point of when going through the decades where you would have said, "Hey, stop here. I want to check this out for a little bit to come back," or would it just go straight from one point to the other? Because as I said, the thing where you see the fashion changes over the years, I was just like, okay, that looks like that might have been the '90s. That's. Was there any point
Uh,
you get?
it doesn't really give you enough besides the 2000s movie, and I think the 20s movie gives you a little more exploration. But I don't know. It's just like a skip over scene, and nothing called to me. I wouldn't have mind seeing more stops and explorations in the movie, but nothing called to me specifically.
What about you,
Mark?
Mark?
Um, would I have stopped? I guess me personally, if I was the traveler, um, maybe something would have caught my eye and sparked my interest. But from his point of view or whatever, he was just fed up with the whole war machine, and all he kept seeing was more and more means of destruction. So he was hoping to finally get past and get to a point where he thought we evolved and got past our warlike ways and stuff. So that was his whole impetus. He just said, he goes, this isn't going, mankind's not evolving fast enough. So he just punched it super fast forward and thought he came out in a spot, but you saw that it was kind of more of the same, more or less, and it kind
Yeah.
of came out into a dystopian future that wasn't what he was looking for.
No,
No.
no. Ah,
It is it is a cautionary tale, but I think it's a very juvenile cautionary tale, which is on
running from
point
your
for the time
problems.
it was written, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this was required reading in school. Honestly, I don't remember ever having. I know I read the original book, but I don't know. I don't think it was because hey, you need to read this chapter. We're reading this chapter this year, or what this book this quarter, whatever. I know I picked it up just because it's H.G. Wells, and I had a kind of a thing for his books there for a while growing up. I mean, what kid? I don't know about modern kids, but growing up in the 80s and 90s, if you're a reader, H.G. Wells is kind of where it was at, especially for younger readers.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's even in audible terms. If you find, get some of these books that are on Audibles, I think they should be not so much pushed on our children, but hey, we're going on a road trip. But on this road trip, we're going to be listening to A Time Machine, 20,000 Leagues Underneath the Sea, Tom Sawyer, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just a matter of keeping their interest with that. So you got to almost kind of find the those versions of the audible books where they're actually like voice acting and there's background noise and stuff like that to help
Well,
capture their imagination a little bit more. Especially nowadays, it's kind of hard for them to keep their interest just to have one static
Yeah. No,
static reader or whatever.
all the phones get locked into a box, thrown into the back of cars. We're doing it. We're 4-hour road trip. You're now stuck with me in the audio book.
yeah.
That will. It'll be my suffrage, but it'll be okay. I don't know, but this movie's a classic.
I don't know. Maybe you guys should, Mark and Omina, you should invest in the chair from A Clockwork Orange
No thanks.
for your kids and just make them listen to it.
I'm sorry. Everyone talks about it. I remember my friends saying how great Clockwork Orange was, and I watched it. Okay, so what? That's the way I felt about it.
No, not the movie. The chair, the torture
The
chair.
chair.
I'm familiar with
Sat them in there and forced their eyes open, right? Then they pull their eyeballs wide open and
Yeah.
watch them things so they'd be re-educated.
Yeah, make them listen to it or watch The Time Machine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at what my son does, and it just depends on the person. And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, if you want to do something,
Omina.
but what you do, see, I keep looking at children are a labor force that are unexploited. So you can read your book, or you can help me do this. What do you want to do?
Yeah, that might work unless you live in the fine state of Arkansas, where your children go to work anyways.
But there are though, on the contrary though, or whatever, it does seem like there's a lot of more. I don't know if Harry Potter helped push it forward or whatever, but there's a lot more. It seems like quality and not quite so dumbed down young adult fiction out there for these kids to choose from that kind of hits on some of these themes. Maybe they won't go back to the classics, but at least maybe they'll get the message of some of the things the classics tried to push forward and be a different story. But I don't know.
I mean,
my son enjoyed Harry Potter even when he was 7 or 8, and he would sneak in. His mother was reading it to him, and he would sneak in and read ahead. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh no, your child's reading. Damn, gotta stop them from doing that nonsense.
Oh, best thing I ever did get my child to read was turn on subtitles. Once the subtitles were turned on, now you won't watch anything without them.
Yeah, I like watching my movies, not reading them, but that's just me.
Well, you're also dyslexic, so that makes a big difference. I don't mean that in the, I agree with you. And many times the problem I have is I'll read below without watching the movie as much. So.
I mean, there's certain films. Going back to this film, I think I could push this kid. I think it'd be easier for me to have kids sit down. Well, the 1961 movie is great. Don't get me wrong. I don't even mind the 2001 version of it. But if you turn this movie into a cartoon of some sort, I think
There probably is a cartoon.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I think Mark and I grew up enough on Saturday matinees that we watched this how many times?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I don't know if you remember if that was in WGN Omen. If you remember, they used to have that Family Classics with Razor Thomas. I was telling them about that. So it was always in like Sundays, like 2 to 4 or something like that. Family class, and you'd hope it'd be something good like this, and then or if you were never exposed to it before, something like this came out when you were a kid, you'd be like, I hit today's gonna be a good Sunday afternoon. 'Cause we didn't have a lot else to choose from.
It was this and kung fu films. Those were my weekend watches for mid afternoon.
Yeah.
We didn't have a specific thing called that, but I used to call that block the less than $10 royalty film.
Oh yeah.
It's whatever they could get to put on for less than $10.
The old Ray Harryhausen.
Right.
Well,
I wish that they want. I would like to go back and watch some of those. I mean, this is one I guess I had missed the first 20 minutes. That was the problem. It always came in like 30 minutes into a movie. So, watching the very beginning, which I had to laugh, when they had the little time machine and he pushes it forward. I hope he has an automatic reset because they'll keep going forward without it.
Yeah, well, he kind of implies that he'll never see it again, right? So,
what you really want to do is you want it to go ahead by like a couple of minutes or something. It's like, hey, where did it go?
Like, you couldn't have like a spring-loaded timer, like instead of a cigar.
I can't exactly because I watched this movie last week and it's been somewhat of a long week. I can't remember. What was the power source, or was there a power source?
Never mentions anything technical.
It's never said, and it's never said in the book either. So it's kind of. I'm think it's left ambiguous on purpose by the author. I really think that.
Well, it reminds me of Frankenstein too. If you ever read that book, it's
right.
A lot of it is intended to be ambiguous because things change and you can be wrong. But what's really important is the story aspect, so you don't get stuck in the technical details because then you date yourself very quickly.
You're right. So I think that was the whole reasoning behind that. So, yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, if you ever watch John Carter, they talk about radon and everything else, which was a big, this is power source. You never hear about that again because, that was a time when they used to view radioactivity as a positive thing. Oh, look at this. Look at all the stuff we can do. And they find out all these people are dying and like losing jaws and stuff like this. But like, I'm drinking radioactive water. It's good for me,
Wasn't there a guy, actually in real life, there was a guy who ate something radioactive trying to prove that it was actually harmless and died horribly.
Yeah, that was probably the one where he was drinking water. He was drinking radioactive water. I think it was good. And it caused his body to shut down and lost his jaw. And it was pretty horrible. But people didn't know that in the early 1900s. I mean, you used to be able to get like radioactive blah, blah, blah. And it glows in the dark. And oh yeah, we'll give these to kids.
The glasses that are made of, can't think of it. But if you put a certain blue light on it, it turns green.
Yeah, radium.
Yeah, there's some guy that does YouTube shorts, and he goes and finds these old, like they used to make toys and stuff, and then they used to paint the stuff with the radium, and then they used to make this. I guess it's a big deal if you could find these dishware, these plates and cups and stuff that have this. I forget the name of the brick, but if you could, it's like worth big bucks, and every once in a while, I guess these plates or whatever slip through the cracks, and people know what they're looking for. They'll find them at like resale shops or antique
aren't radium;
stores.
those are plutonium.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Plutonium.
Okay.
That is dangerous. Radium, on the other hand, is perfectly safe. It's just the illumination effect has a very short half-life, so it became less cost-effective to make illuminated things with it than neon materials.
Well, and then, we're talking about. I think radon has a half-life of like a couple of seconds. It goes real fast, so.
But it can be recharged with leaving it out in the sun and all that. But it stops getting that effect after about 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
The old glow in dark toys, leave your toys out in the sun. take him in at night. What was that? He-Man, not Skeletor, but
That was after they switched over to the neon gels and stuff.
Well, you know what? That was the same thing. If I don't know if you ever had the old D&D toys. If you actually put it, because I used to play in the dark with them, their weapons actually glowed in the dark if you put them in the sunlight. It's like, oh, okay.
Speaking
I know we're off topic now, but I remember I came in a little box, but I had a piece of kryptonite.
Oh yeah.
As a kid.
Yeah.
Well,
If you ever make it down to Metropolis, Illinois, the home of Superman, they have a Superman museum.
Yeah.
They have what you're talking about of it in there. Good Lord. But no, this movie was great. I mean, it's really hard to find anything to bitch about with this movie considering when it was made. The scenery was, I'll agree with Justin. It was simple, but it's quite elegant. The acting,
I mean, I did like the whole point where he was showing the, when they're using, what is it, the goo that's going through that looks like lava, and they're doing the little cars. And, I'm like, okay, the special effects aren't the best, but there's something nostalgic and fun about them, which I think is the problem that we're having nowadays.
Oatmeal. They used to use oatmeal for lava back in the day.
That was excellent lava work too.
It made me feel like I was watching an old Godzilla movie.
Oh, but that's what gets me. Is sometimes, that's the problem I had with George Lucas later on too. Is he got too enamored of trying to sell ILM on their special effects rather than just saying, "Hey, these will."
That's right, Now shut up.
We'll keep on chasing the newer and better things. And now I was watching Avatar: Way of Water, and it's like, this is just a cartoon. Why do you spend if you're gonna do that, then just make it a regular, like Pixar movie. Spend a lot less in your special effects. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Well, I understand Lucas's pushing of the technology because that really made him. But there's pushing the technology than replacing actual work with
the story. Yeah, you still have to rely on the story. Is my point.
Here's really. I mean, I'm always have been and always will be a fan of practical magic when it comes to movies. David Bowie Labyrinth is a very good example of practical magic. The original Jurassic Park, the huge freaking T-Rex that they had was real freaking mild. That was awesome. I don't think the Raptors. I think the Raptors were computered in. Well, parts of them I think they actually used.
But like the whole thing is that's why I liked Farscape is it blended the old and the new together and did a really unique feel and from a special effects standpoint, and that's what I liked. I mean, you look at some of the special effects for like Babylon 5, they're dated, but at least the story still holds up. So I'm like, okay, I know you still need to get past season 1.
And Babylon 5 was definitely like they pushed the envelope on what they could do with the technology because they were the first real computer effects.
Yeah, the series that used like the CGI stuff,
and they were doing stuff that most like film studios couldn't do. Right.
I think that they were doing some of the unique. I'm not saying the film studios didn't do it. It's that there was nothing really on that big of a scale. Like I said, ILM did stuff around that time frame too, and of course, when you're spending $200 million or whatever it is, you can do a lot more with it. But if you look at the old Star Wars that came out, a few years later. But that was the other thing is people forget just how fast the technology was advancing at the time. It was every 18 months you're still following Moore's law, so you still got it. But nowadays, I'm not noticing there's that much difference.
Well, Moore's law shifted to every 2 years after 1980 or 1990.
It was still about every 18 months for the first, probably until 2000. Then there's a certain limit.
The first Moore's law was every year it would double from 70 to I think 90, and then from 90 to 2020. And now they're talking about switching back over to analog technology to push data expansion.
So I mean, there's just certain things in there. It's like, oh, okay, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's but that's where you see these huge leaps in technology, and nowadays it's like, oh, okay, I don't know, but I love practical magic for all the movies. I still enjoy the like when you saw the flowers open and close. And
Yeah.
then, that was, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's
Now, do you think that was like puppetry or time lapse?
I think they did a combination of both. You can tell that they did both in there because some of the things you looked at they looked like they were kind of clay. They did the kind of claymation, they open
Yeah,
and
I
close.
think so.
But there
too.
were other ones where they took the snapshots like earlier on, and you're like, oh, okay, that one was done probably within a week or two, because it's probably easier just to take a picture of it, over a week, but you don't have 3 months over a movie to bring it out. So like, oh, okay, we'll do the claymation stuff.
Well, I don't know about pictures over a week, because a lot of those, like sunflowers, do that in a day cycle.
Right.
So they probably just left a camera on it, locked on it for
to take
like
a snapshot every
5
single-
hours or whatever.
Yeah, so but that's what I mean but the stuff where you see it, turn into a flower and then an apple and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they used a combination. Depends on how long that they had. Like you said, if it takes less than a week, that's pretty easy to set up because that's during your whole filming schedule. But if it's going to go past your filming schedule, like, hey, look, we'll do this this claymation stuff and we'll get it done.
Yeah. Or it could have been stock footage.
Well, and I think there's probably a combination of that too. But I still think that they did both. I noticed that there were both in there. At the beginning, when he was just going slowly forward, it looked like it was time-lapse photography. And then when he was doing the, really fast stuff where it looked like he was going over like a season, then it started looking more of that clay. So for the flowers and some other stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay. That said you know what? This is not a movie that's defined by its special effects.
It could have used a little more blurring. I find it funny, like when they did the mannequin scene, because that's our focus point for the time travel.
Yes.
Is the first few, you have the guy come out and change the mannequin. I like how he strips the whole thing naked, so you can see the naked mannequin. Then he pulls out a modesty thing. Like, you think you should have brought that out first?
But yeah, I mean, I like that. I like the fact that when he was talking to his friend.
Yeah. But then that guy disappears and the mannequin starts changing on its own without the guy coming out. Like,
well, they were speeding it up, for how fast it was moving too. But like he says, I like his friend where he meets his son. Oh, so and so died, and he said, "Oh, the owner." He said he'll come back someday.
I'm just saying that kid's lived a pretty harsh life if he's looking like 43 at 17.
I know.
17, maybe 18.
Well, maybe he was in his 40s at the beginning, and that's when he died, and then his son comes up. Who knows? But it was.
Well, no, he's talking about coming over and seeing baby, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Right. So I assume he's like no older than 1 year old.
Oh no! You're talking about the son, but I'm talking about when they shaved off the mustache and the fact that he went to war. It was like he was kind of old to go to war at that point. 15 years later, so he'd have to be at least in his 30s, if not 40s.
Well, I think they were just drafting everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, I think they were.
That's what they were implying.
Desperate and needed bodies, regardless of age. They just kind of had to do what they had to do to get to reinforce the front, probably.
I did like the callback to the all clear. Where they just mimic without thinking. It's. Well, we just have to go underground. Well, they never come out. Like, no one ever questions anything. And I understand this whole thing of like, you aren't even worth saving,
Yeah.
800,000 years in the future, it's like, you're just cattle. You don't do anything. And I did think
in England that would have been before World War One.
Right. Well, yeah, but remember, his friend dies during World War One when he's talking to his son.
Right.
Yeah.
And his son at that point should be gearing up for World War II.
No. It was 1918 or something like that. It was
1917. That's why I said 17 years.
Yeah.
So he looked pretty old for 17.
Right, and then when he comes back in the future, he looks at the. What do you mean? There's a war again? They've been fighting for 20 years, ignoring the fact there was a peacetime, of 15 years in there or so. So I thought that was interesting for that aspect. And then of course they did the nuclear war, which it's funny in how they were doing it because we know that's not how nuclear blast worked. But
Close enough.
yeah,
The plaque was the thing that pissed me off the most.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was so hackneyed and like have you ever seen one of those plaques? Like a memorial plaque? They look nothing like that. It's like there's a lot of suggested information that isn't given. Like if you weren't watching the movie from the perspective of the audience, you'd have no idea what that plaque meant. You'd be like just some random person walking by and like to Jeff's friend Carl.
well
Thank
yeah,
you.
But remember that was just in remembrance of. It was kind of a message to send it to his friend in the future.
Yeah, but like we have those kinds of plaques all over the place in this city, and they usually have some sort of descriptor, right? They're not like obviously painted onto a piece of wood.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I can forgive they did a good job for it being that, but it's like there would usually be some smaller text that would actually explain who the fuck this person was.
Well, yeah, but it was just to his friend. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like whenever I go to a cemetery, in memoriam of, mother, blah, 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 whatever. It's like, okay.
Even those have more legible information.
So there's
it was just a thing in a movie that they didn't just put it there to give you a little bit to say, hey, this is here, but I don't think they really put a much more thought into it, especially in the movies of this time. It's like they probably think about people picking it apart like we are now. But yeah, I get you.
Well, and what's interesting is, you don't quite understand why his friend was just holding on to this stuff, and then you realize, if you want to talk about determinism, everything's already been predetermined because his friend knew. And that's why he was keeping that piece of property and he would never sell it or anything.
Yeah.
So it's there's that aspect, but they don't really go into it. But that's the implication is that his friend, when he comes back and realizes he went to the future, he's like, oh, well, maybe someday he'll return. I'll leave, something for him to find us,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, was there anything you take out of this film?
The shitty makeup for the Morlocks.
I know it's shitty, but I love it. I love it regardless.
There's the one point where it's like you realize it's not body makeup, but a bodysuit.
Well, some of it was a bodysuit, some of it was body makeup. The head,
yeah, I saw a spot here and there where like the makeup was smeared off. So yeah.
Well, I was wondering.
Well, I mean, some of them were pretty jiggly, and I'm like, that's not a suit. That's some just fat guy that they painted green. But I like the eye sockets. That was interesting, how they glowed in the dark.
Oh yeah, that was a cool effect. Yeah, and then when he did the thing with the match, always. When their eyes would start popping up in the darkness, it was cool. Especially when you're a little kid and saw this and hadn't been jaded by every other thing that's out there now. But yeah.
You know what though is I like modern stuff, but I also appreciate the special effects of the time, and I was like, oh, okay, I have no problems with it. And in some ways, I don't know. Have you guys seen? I saw someone that on YouTube that does modern movies in like 1950 style and stuff like that, and it's actually pretty cool to look at. Like they're doing this in 1960s or 1950s, and then they do kind of like the trailer like they would back in the day. And I kind of miss those. They made movies real events. Whereas nowadays it's just like, go to a movie. I mean, it's like, oh, we're going to go to the movie just because it's going to be fun. And of course, movies have gotten so expensive now; it doesn't help either.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the theater you go to.
But I think
I used to go to
Go
theaters
ahead.
for $4, for $4.50.
Yeah, well, yeah, those days are over there, Hoss.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But,
That's called 2019.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
Well, back then it was maybe not. Whoa, 2019.
I mean, that's my whole point. Is
What the
I
fuck
used to go to
theater
the
are you going
matinees
to?
because they were so much cheaper, and nowadays I went, okay, that's like $13 just to go see the matinee.
2015, it was like $7 for me. It was Canadian prices, right?
Yeah.
It's like 30 cents American. But yeah, I would go see a movie 3-4 times a week, man. It's like,
yeah, but I think Connell was still like fishing a answer, like a message we pull out from this. I think this movie like kind of had
More
two
bad.
messages: a cautionary tale about technology and exploiting it, and it's kind of like a razor's edge. You got to watch. It's like same thing with like Frankenstein science and all that. Just watching what you're doing and trying to look for, instead of exploiting things to get rich or get power or stuff like that, trying to incorporate the idea of just using it to better mankind and the long term picture instead of the short term gains. I think was a
I
big
thought the
message in the movie.
message. I thought the message of the story was, if the blonde is hot enough, it's okay to be a simp and give up your friends.
Well, he was trying to rebuild the world so the world would have a better future in what his eyes were, try to do away with the warlike ways.
It's completely different, which is if your choice is between the 62-year-old and the 20-year-old, you always go for the 20-year-old.
Yeah, they're going to restock the world with more blonde hair, blue-eyed people. I know a certain gentleman back in the 30s who would love this idea.
That's American propaganda,
bro.
bro.
But I'm going to say this much: it was they were just breeding stock. That's
yeah. Well, you said that line earlier, Omen. But yeah, when he called them all cattle, I thought that was really really cool and powerful line when he said that in the movie. He goes, "You're nothing but cattle."
Well, and I think that's to me, it's the real story is that you're supposed to learn from the past and rebuild to the future, which I thought was interesting. When he was going through and you see them build up that dome or whatever, and you see the Morlock, and I think that's part of like you're talking about it reminds me very similar of the Tolkien. Hey, look, you have the highly industrialized Morlocks, but they've lost their humanity. And then you have this one group which is just in complete leisure and luxury, and they have no thought or they have no desire or drive to do anything. And it's kind of warning about those two extremes.
Yes. Yep.
But he got the line wrong. It's not you're just cattle. It's Soylent Green as people.
I think we wrapped this one up pretty well. I think we, for the most part, would you all recommend it to somebody to watch if they've never seen it before?
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to see something that's, hey, it's kind of family friendly. I mean, it's got its little thing, but it's something you can send to your like 5 to 7-year-old. Exactly what Mark's children. Aren't your children around that age, Mark?
No, my daughter's 17.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that.
But I don't know that I'd be able to get. We had this whole discussion. I don't know. I'd be able to get her to sit down and watch. Maybe not. I don't know if I'd be able to get her to watch it with me. But
talk to her English teacher. Make the English teacher make a report that they have to watch this movie and do a paper on it.
Yeah, she's.
You know what? I'm gonna say this much: nothing turns kids more off than making them do that.
Yeah,
that's true.
Just start referencing it a lot. And because she'll not be able to understand the references, she'll have to watch it just to understand.
I don't know very many adults would catch all the references to this movie.
You know what though? It's one of
That's
those.
Besides the point, man.
If you have nothing better to do, you just pop it on. It's the kind of thing of, if you don't have internet, here you go. Trying to get my son to sit down and watch The Mummy, which I really enjoyed. The Mummy, he enjoyed it too. But getting him to sit down and watch a movie is just a chore.
Yeah.
Any movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to make it like to go see Dune. I had to drag him to go see it, and he enjoyed it. But same thing with the original. Well, not the original, but the 2021 version we watched. I made him sit down and watch, but I had to do it over 2 days. He's like, look, and which, to be fair, I don't mind doing that. I like breaking things up. I'm like, okay, an hour's good enough, but.
Well, the Dune movies, I mean, completely different. I mean, the Dune movies is very dry. It's a slow burn movies. Where this movie, I thought moved fairly quickly. I had a good pace.
Yeah,
movie.
it did have a good pace, didn't it? I
Even
thought
the
so too.
slow moments weren't all that slow. I mean, it got right back onto the horse really quickly.
Well, I'm going to say this much: is it had enough story to allow it to move forward without doing a lot of world building, which I think helped because you're learning as the guy is. It's not an action packed movie for the most part until the very end. It's the okay, because you're saying, well, what you as the audience are trying to figure out what's going to go on in the future. So you're being taken for a ride, and it doesn't have to be the action all the time, which I think is part of the problem is they don't know when to do action, slow it down, action. You need to have patience. You can't have action like Transformers is terrible in certain ones where it's like, oh, we're going to do the last 50 minutes. I said, yeah, but after a certain point, my adrenaline's gone and I'm tired, and I just don't
It's
care
just
anymore.
a boring blur.
Yeah, you just have you want that roller coaster where you can have a high point and then slow it down a bit, high point, which is something that I think Christopher Nolan understood when he was doing the Batman, because he would have an action scene and then he would slow down and do exposition and then action scene and then some exposition, so you had time to allow yourself to calm down again. So.
Now, Michael Bay, he's the one that used to be the hairdresser, right?
I just remember him doing the whole Pearl Harbor. That's the only thing I remember Michael Bay from, and The Island, which I did not like The Island. But
I don't know. I could see Michael Bay doing what was that movie, Titanic? His rendition of Titanic.
I have never watched Titanic. I can say this proudly.
It was worth it.
All right. So we did Time Machine. We did.
Next week's science fiction film is the Titanic, right?
No.
Before, I mean, this movie, I think, real quick, I'm not trying to step on toes. I think this movie had a message about, was a kind of a anti-war message, whatever, destruction. But I don't think it clobbered you over the head on the end of it, and then it kind of gave kind of the viewer the option. What were the 3 books he picked at the end to help better humanity into the future, and he kind of posed the question to you to give you something. I think it was a clever way to do it. What it kind of were asking the audience, well, what 3 books would you choose and why, and kind of give you some food for thought.
Yeah, to rebuild society. That's but you know what though is I think it's a warning message, like you said. But the other point is it's a warning not to be complacent and to go down to your just to me it warns about don't go down the technological path to the point that you lose your humanity, and it also means don't become so
subservient to it, maybe in a way.
That you now achieve nothing. I think that's the I think it's a warning from both sides.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think so.
Definitely The Prince by Nikolai Machiavelli, one of them.
What?
No, I wouldn't even do Nikolai Machiavelli. If I was going to do stuff, it would be,
the Prince. The Prince. There isn't enough intrigue or government to make that useful.
What is it?
Well, at that point, you're just kingdom building again. I mean,
yeah, but there's nothing in The Prince about building a kingdom. It's about governing over a kingdom.
Line.
Yeah.
So I mean, and also politics. With the gamer aspect here, I think this movie and all of Wells' story, Wells and kind of Jules Verne go hand in hand. They kind of help define the whole steampunk aesthetic in a way, in my opinion. But I don't know how you guys feel about that. But
that was the 1800s before they had a lot of stuff like you're talking about with the electricity and things. That was I was thinking about the Edeland, and I remember that video game from when I was a child. I was like, oh, what was this? But I do miss the old story kind of aspect, and like, oh, what is it? And I think in the original Time Machine, he goes so far forward, he sees that there are alien bug insects that have ruled the world.
Yeah, everything's involved in the crab creatures. Something from what I remember, yeah. But yeah, he does. He goes like in the sun's like kind of dying and everything like that in the novella in the short story, yeah.
And I'll be honest, I never read the short story. What I did do is I listened to
The audio.
the great classics that they used to have on Discovery Channel of all places. They in the morning they used to talk about the stories and we go through. They basically give you a synopsis. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to read the whole story if I know the general view.
Yeah, it's never the same, now.
I never said it was the same. I just know that there's the whole thing that's in there.
Yeah.
I understand what the story is. At least when someone mentions it, it's just like oh, okay, I'm familiar with what some of these, people can talk about. I'm like, I'm not completely lost. Like, what's that movie? I never knew. What's that book? I never heard of that. Okay, I don't have to read the Iliad to know that about the Trojan horse. And I'm going to finish that someday. But that's the other part too. Is a lot of stuff I missed in high school, like the Iliad. I was like, okay, I'll go back and listen to it now that I'm old. Same thing with Michael Moorcock, R.E. Howard. I'm going back and listening to some of these old things, and it's interesting on seeing the writing style and how different it is now.
So, I think which is that one?
I can't.
Oh, the Iliad.
Small.
It's backwards.
Iliad.
No, it's flipped is the problem.
Yeah. So I am going to. I know. Is it everybody's done a movie but me? Is that really where we're at?
Well, we're at Terminator for next week, aren't we?
Isn't that your pick?
Yeah, that was my pick for Terminator because we're doing time travel.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
And then you wanted to do one of the
Bill Ted's Excellent Adventures.
the second one.
The Bogus Adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really did not mean to take a couple
Right way.
weeks off, but my life just kind of was blowing up left, right, down, center.
Hey man, I wouldn't have been here last week. I was in the hospital. So
Anyway, are you better, Justin, or are you just still recovering? I don't even know what went on.
Do you see the side of my face?
Oh, okay.
It's not out to here.
Oh, really? What do you mind?
I don't know if the internet will let me tell you.
Yeah.
I had a cavity and it snapped.
Oh.
And before I could get into the dentist, this all infected. And so I went to the hospital and they were worried it gotten into my eye. So
Oh man.
I
was
on antibiotics, like IV antibiotics.
IV, yeah, heavy duty, huh? Wow.
Yeah, I was getting pumped.
I knew one guy.
days.
He had a cavity in his tooth and actually went to his brain, and he was in a coma for 3 months. You're like,
Damn.
holy crap, but apparently followed that nerve right up there. It was like, wow. So anyway, Justin, glad that you're doing better. All I heard is like, just in the hospital. Like, okay, could you at least tell me why he's in the hospital?
Oh yeah, I was pretty out of it before I went in there.
All right. So in theory, because life has a way of messing with all of us, we'll be doing
Right.
Omenau's Terminator, the original one with good old Arnie and other people that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Linda Hamilton.
Michael Bean?
Yeah, and the
Michael
woman
Bay.
who married the director.
Yeah, Linda Hamilton.
Yeah, she has one.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. In the sequel to Terminator 2, there was the very end where the
Terminator 2.
it was able to shapeshift. It made him look like. Anyways, he used her twin sister in the last part of the movie. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To be the double.
So I want to.
You okay there over now?
I'm fine. I'm just cooking up. Allergies are getting me.
No,
all the flowers are blooming all at once.
I'm gonna pull the plug here on today's show. I think we did everything we could say on this movie. I highly recommend it. Yes, and really quick, turning this into an RPG, it being steampunk, it being fantasy, it being whatever, I think it'd be easy. It would be very much something is wrong with the sort of the Slider TV show issue. You don't exactly know what you're going to run into that week. There might be something wrong with the machine. There might be something wrong with the society. There might be something wrong with one of you guys. I think there's enough meat on that table, meat on that bone to do at least maybe not year long campaign, but maybe about a good 6 to 8 month campaign using time traveling.
Well, even without expanding the story any, you could have it a decent one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's decent.
Well, that's the what was it what was the original one that they talked about, which was the old butterfly effect.
Mhm.
yeah.
I think wasn't it a what is his name, Ray Bradbury or something like that?
Michael Crichton did.
No. This was a different. This was before then. This was something
Okay.
I think that was done by Ray Bradbury or something. And I think that's where the term came from.
We can reference. We can reference.
But well, it had to do with them hunting dinosaurs.
Asimov was it?
Oh yeah, I read that they sent that home for a short story for my daughter to read in school a couple years ago. It was pretty, and I hadn't read it before, but yeah, it was cool. It's something they would, if they went out to beat, they did something weird to like a mosquito or something weird. I forget, but yeah, it's a real good short story. But yeah, that was Ray Bradbury, that short story with the dinosaurs.
I think they were hunting dinosaurs or something. And they stepped on a butterfly, and then that changes all of the future because of that.
Yeah. Because if you deviated from the path when you went on these trips, they had real stringent rules, and then that was a good short story.
Okay, I remember that one from the TV show.
Yep, the Ray Bradbury something. That's what I saw it from too. Yeah. But it was based off of one of his short stories. And boy, he did not like.
Yes.
He didn't like John Huston, and was it also Harlan Ellison? I can't remember.
Harlan Ellison. I don't like Ellison either. The guy wants to turn everything into a drug-fueled sex party. Like you can't have any decent story without it being degenerate with that guy.
But Connell wants to wrap it up here, so
sure.
If you want to wrap it, we can, Connell.
Yeah, hopefully next week. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm still not quite back up to 100%.
Connell, 100%. You mean back up to 80%?
Sorry.
1984 Terminator next week, right?
Yep. Yes. I look forward to watching it. I look forward to talking to you guys about it. Yeah. Oh. You know, I wanted to say, now that I'm thinking about Terminator movie, a little quick trivia. O.J. Simpson was originally wanted to be cast to play the Terminator. They decided.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
With the passing of O.J., I feel kind of awkward making any jokes about his passing as of right now. Tomorrow, I'll probably make a stab at it.
You're not right.
All I'm saying is I could go for a nice tall glass of orange juice right now.
Anyway.
Isn't that Irish humor coming out with the you guys is pretty crass about death and making fun of it and stuff, ain't it?
The only thing you can do with death is just
Hey, you know what? Other than listening to my parents tell me about all their plans about their funeral, we used to have to get out because all the people paying their respects when my grandmother died because we were laughing too hard, doing all the memories and everything else. And it's kind of sad. The only time you get to see your family is during funerals as you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let you wrap it. We're going to keep going off on tangents here anyway, Connell. We're going to wrap this. Go ahead and wrap it. We'll stop.
Everybody out there, have a good evening. And hope you guys enjoyed the show. We will continue doing this. Here pretty soon, me and Mark will be talking about the Dresden book when we can figure that thought processing out. Then me and Justin will be doing a show talk about nothing else but the Gilmore Girls show. You know, the one that started in the late 90s or into like mid 2000s. Yeah. Don't point your finger at me. I know where you live. Anyways, y'all have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm picking Owen House nose.